Hello, good afternoon. We're going to be starting the event now. Thank you, everybody, for coming this afternoon. As we gather at the world's premier climate change event and the specific highlight of COP29 regarding financing, we're proud to use this platform to advocate for enhanced and innovative financial solutions dedicated to agriculture. From our pavilion, we are championing the critical need for more accessible funding to bolster agricultural resilience across the Americas, a region where climate change significantly threatens food security and rural livelihoods. In regions highly vulnerable to climate shocks, like Latin America and the Caribbean, international climate finance is essential to take advantage of our technological capabilities, support sustainable agricultural practices, strengthen resilience, and create a more robust climate-adaptive food systems. Although some global organizations, multilateral institutions, and developed countries have begun channeling resources into this area, the level of support still falls short to the scale needed to meet these challenges. These funds aim to drive a range of initiatives, from the adoption of climate-smart agriculture to reinforcing supply chains, minimizing post-harvest losses, and developing early warning systems against climate risk. Given the magnitude of the challenge, solutions must match scale and ambition. Beyond addressing immediate impacts, resilience-focused funding also aims to foster long-term adaptability within farming and rural communities. Projects aligned with unique regional needs allow small-scale farmers to access knowledge, technologies, and financial resources to enhance productivity and reduce environmental impact. Moreover, these actions must be aligned to the NDCs, the NDAs, the SDGs of the countries, promoting inclusion and gender and equity, which further amplifies the positive impact across rural economies. Today, we are here to dive deeper into these issues and share exciting news from the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, IICA. Let me introduce our distinguished panelists: Dr. Mohamed Ibrahim, Director of Technical Cooperation of IICA; Honorable Jose Abelardo May, Minister of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise of Belize; Mr. Federico Sancho, Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation Manager of IICA and lead focal point for the FoHRSA Fund launched today. But before we start, I would like to invite our Director General, Dr. Manuel Otero, to share with us the opening remarks. Dr. Otero.
Thank you, Carlos. Good afternoon. It's been a very hectic day with many sessions, all of them very, very, very interesting. And let me tell you that I have reasons for being optimistic. I will start off my comments saying that in October last year, the Minister of Agriculture got together in San Jose, Costa Rica. In a resolution, I don't remember the number, 545, yes. In the resolution 545, they requested me, as Director General of IICA, three things. They said me, Manuel, put in motion a continental alliance, which is a new wave of technical cooperation, linking issues, countries, topics. Okay. Secondly, Manuel, think ahead, think in the future of agriculture. And last but not least, the instruction was, please build an hemispheric fund thinking in developing countries for promoting resilience. A director general, if he pretends to survive, has to obey the ministers of agriculture. So in a few minutes, we're going to present the hemispheric fund for promoting resilience. This is not going to be one more fund. It has to be something different. We have to be pragmatic. We have to favor the countries. They are suffering natural resources, not ICA, not ICA. They are suffering. So we have to think in them. This fund is not for strengthening the cash flow of ICA. It's for helping the member countries, the agriculture sectors, the farmers and ranchers. So I am endorsing the proposal that in a few minutes we are going to explain, emphasizing that the reason of being of this fund is to improve the resilience of agri-food systems, to support agriculture innovation that minimize environmental impact, is based on a blended capital architecture, and the philosophy behind this fund is the necessary that is time to act. So we are eager to present the fund, and especially to receive all the feedback in trying that the fund be a reality that makes significant contributions to farmers in the whole continent, but especially with a focus on the Caribbean region, a region that is suffering as a consequence of the climate crisis, and we need to help them. So as a Director General, it's a pleasure beginning, please, with this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Otero, for your words. We're going to begin with Dr. Ibrahim, who will share insights of the impact of climate change in agriculture and how we can build a more resilient, sustainable agricultural sector. Dr. Ibrahim, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Our Director General mentioned about the importance. He has the farmers at heart, and for this reason, he has been advocating of the need to creating a resilient fund to support the farmers to become more resilient and adopting what are more climate-smart practices. So what I'm going to do today is try to make a summary of what are the impacts of climate change on the agriculture sector and how it is disrupting the whole food ecosystem and the implications it have on the livelihoods, not on the farmers, but also on the whole chain of segments that depend on the sector for their well-being. Well, the data that we've seen on the projections of what are the impacts of the climate change over the next decades in terms of the increase in temperatures. Based on what we've seen in the projections in 2024, we have the hottest temperature in the year 2024, and on the verge of surpassing what is in the Paris Agreement on the 1.5 degrees, which means this has a lot of implications, and already we are seeing evidence of the impacts on hurricanes. We have seen Beryl, we have seen Helene. Right now, as I speak, in the Caribbean region, it's developing now new tropical storms in Costa Rica, where the headquarters of ICA is based on. We are now supporting the Costa Rican government with trying to have a recovery of the damages they've got from these storms. Now, this global drought severity also shows that the whole of Latin America and the southern cone, also in Africa, areas going to become drier. We have the impacts on the food, more drought, more water scarcity. And of course, in Central America and the rest of Latin America, a large percentage of our food has come through rain-fed agriculture. So you can see the dependence and the need to look at good practices that we need to work on. But also, this also triggers what we've seen now on forest fires or grassland fires, which is having negative impacts in the agricultural systems. Also, you see the measure of environmental justice is also in the discussion. Floods, we also have the impacts on migration from areas where people are moving to more safe areas of less prone impacts of climate change. What we've seen for Helen and the projections, more than 20% of the people in Florida is going to be migrating back to other places based on these projections, and the similar cases we have seen in the case of Central America. As I said, there are economic and social pressures, more than 10% of the loss of the yields. In some cases, farmers are losing the entire crops, high animal mortality, all the capital, all the assets, and also related to the degradation of soils and more vulnerabilities they have in the region. Now, there are many observed and projected effects. The yield reduction, I said, 10% will be reduced over time. The coffee producing areas, we have seen negative impacts in the production of coffee, and also we have seen in the projection that the coffee producing areas will be moving more to higher lands because of the impacts of climate change. Now, these are some of the data we have done, which is showing that in time, all the places that are more suitable, which is marked in red, excellent for coffee, will be reducing in time because of the impact of climate change. These are very sensitive crops, and based on this map, the area for coffee will be reduced. In Central America and many other countries, a large percent of the population, of the rural populations, are depending on the coffee-producing areas for their livelihoods, and this is some of the implications we have seen in the case of coffee. Similarly, we have seen more sensitive crops like grapes, the vineyards, also been impacted already because of the impacts of climate change, where they're moving up into more cooler climates because of the increase in temperatures and what we've got in these areas. Sorry. So we have seen the direct impacts on pests and diseases. For example, the coffee rust resulted in a loss in Central America of more than $100 million in the countries, which is significant in terms of the GDP of the countries and what are the implications of the coffee rust. Right now, we are having risk in the TR4 fusarium. We have a case of fusarium in the sugarcane, which Belize is suffering, and also Mexico and other countries. So the impacts on climate change and triggering diseases are impacting on wiping out entire crops in these areas, to make a case of why we need a resilience fund to help farmers to adopt to good practices. As I mentioned, water availability will be affected. We have economic consequences, already $29 billion in some cases between 2000 and 2019 being lost. Recently, the Hurricane Beryl had an impact of $4 billion in the Caribbean region, and there is some examples of where the damage and loss effect we are seeing to repair these damage and loss is very costly. So it's affected the social and food security impact. I mentioned to you the problems of migration in many of the areas we've got. So we are looking at technological developments. They are good practices, but what we need to do is investment and funding for scaling up these good practices. Agroforestry is one of the examples of nature-based solutions which have been promoted. We also have sustainable livestock systems which are also being promoted. These are some good examples of coffee and cocoa systems which we have developed in CATI and in CRAF with the CGIAR centers and national organizations. And these systems have been proven to be climate smart, increasing the productivity while at the same time producing ecosystem services and more resilient to climate change and increasing temperatures in these conditions. Likewise, countries like Costa Rica has been advancing in carbon neutrality, and the NAMAs of the coffee, livestock, NAMAs of the rice and bananas as an example of what are the policies being promoted in these conditions. Similarly, you know, livestock is on the agenda for discussion in impacts on climate change, but also we have got good practices of silvopastoral systems, which is increasing the productivity, increasing the resilience of the system, but at the same time reducing the emissions and reducing the ecological footprint of the livestock systems, which is being discussed on a global agenda. We have now been looking at new varieties of coffee, a new generation of coffee, for example, a new generation of cocoa, a new generation of different varieties with Embrapa and other organizations working to look at what improvements and genetic improvements you can make through genetic engineering. And already there are good examples of these new varieties already being used at a pilot scale. And here again, we need to scale up this in the different regions that we work on. Improving soil health. ICA has a program called Living Soils. Professor Ratan Lal, who's present here, is part of the collaboration with ICA working on living soils, understanding the need of improving the soil health as a way of improving the resilience of the food systems and the impacts it have on productivity, but also the impacts on ecosystem services. And there's an example of where ICA is championing and moving to look at incentives for good soil management. Transition to renewable energies. We just finished an event here on bioeconomy and the example of how you can move towards circular economies within some emphasis on the tropical systems where you have good opportunities for producing biomass. That's another good example of good practices that we're working at ICA. Improvements of the infrastructure and water resources from management, improving the irrigation practices, the drip irrigation, more precision farming, enhancing the digital agriculture systems where we have a program on digital agriculture and we've been training and providing techniques to many of the countries already which have been adopting to these cases. Those are some examples of where we've been working and currently working on early warning systems as the case of the Caribbean region. How do you provide the tools for the risk management and early warning systems? These are examples of good practices for water management, which is improving productivity, resilience, improving the farm economy and rural economies, targeting the small farmers, the family agriculture, and to show you the good examples of practices that we have advanced on, and they are ready for scaling up, and we should take the advantage of these low-hanging fruits. The advances in public policies, I mentioned to you NAMAS, there have been NDCs, they are looking at incentives for all these different practices. ICA is working now on a new generation of policies, which is including scaling up of climate-smart practices. And I think we are moving in this right step. And we need to strengthen this finance that our Director General is going to present shortly. So these are a list of the summary of the conclusions. We have the impacts of climate change. We have good practices. What we need is resources, building the partnerships and collaboration as we've got in the continental alliances that we're working at ICA. And I think here we can move forward in terms of looking for solutions for more resilient food systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim, for your very clear presentation on framing the context of agriculture and its resilience to climate change, as well as sharing with us the vision of ICA towards these challenges. Now we will hear from Minister of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprise of Belize about the challenges that these countries are facing in securing sustainable and resilient production of food in the Americas. Minister Mai.
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. When I received the invitation from ICA to attend COP29, and I looked at the dates, I said, oh my goodness, this is a long way from home and a large time to be away from home. I am 10,000 miles away from my home today. And what I'm hearing today is music to my ears, but it is relief to the farmers of the Americas. Over the past 2 days, we have heard testimonies of the challenging times that farmers are suffering. It is now that farmers understand that climate change is real and that climate change is disrupting the food systems of the Americas. We have seen and heard and seen the evidence that the Americas are some of the most vulnerable countries. As we stand here today and as I speak now, there is a storm threatening Belize, Mexico, and other parts of Central America. We just had a storm passing 2 weeks ago. And so this hemispheric fund could not have come at a better time, DG. We are grateful to AICA to have listened to the concern of the farmers, and we are grateful to the ministers, the Council of Ministers, to have had the vision and shared the vision with the DG to develop and to procure such a fund. This hemispheric fund for agricultural resilience and sustainability in the Americas is critical to offset some of the many challenges the farmers are facing today. It will promote actions for greater resilience. It will promote actions that will see that the betterment of the farmers of the Americas. And so, from the Ministry of Agriculture of Belize, the farmers of Belize, we extend a heartfelt gratitude and we congratulate ICA and its staff for a job well done. I can say to my farmers, I did not go in vain. I did not travel 10,000 miles and returned with empty hands. ICA has heard the cries of the farmers in Central America and of the Americas, and they have risen to the challenge. The farmers of the Americas are going to be extremely satisfied to see that ICA has done a job well done. I thank you, DG, and the entire staff of ICA for such great achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Mai, for sharing with us that dose of reality that we must not forget, especially during events such as the COP conferences. Now we'll hear from Mr. Federico Sancho, Manager of Planning, Monitoring, and Evaluation at ICA, who will share with us the great news of the day. Mr. Sancho, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. Thank you all for being here today and to share with us this exciting news that we are presenting to the world as an innovative but critical initiative for our region. The Hemispherical Agricultural Resilience Fund, owned and led by the countries of the Americas. As you heard from Dr. Ibrahim, we are witnessing alarming shifts in weather patterns, extreme droughts, devastating floods, and unpredictable growing seasons, as well as other social and economic shocks that impact the capabilities of our agricultural sector. We cannot forget the outbreaks that we recently faced and the regular issues, animal and plant health, that becomes a critical aspect for the region. These changes threaten food security and undermine the livelihoods of countless farmers and rural communities. To address this challenge, we must prioritize international cooperation and technical collaboration, fostering innovative solutions and devising new mechanisms that improve our agri-food systems. We must acknowledge the dual importance of agriculture in the Americas as the food basket of the world and a key pillar for biodiversity integrity. As we say, agriculture is part of the solution to the challenges we all face towards improving climate actions related with mitigation and adaptation. The Ministers of Agriculture in the Americas, as Minister May mentioned, mandated us to explore new alternative sources and innovative financial instruments that can serve the needs in terms of reaction better to outbreaks or extreme weather events, but also to proactively act to improve resilience and climate adaptation in all the food chains around the hemisphere. Mobilizing resources for agricultural resilience of the Americas and improving its value to the world climate is our main priority at this time. ICA stands out as a partner in reaching climate finance and promoting agricultural innovation due to its deep understanding of the challenges as opportunities unique to Latin America and the Caribbean. With over 8 decades supporting the region's agricultural development, ICA is able to design tailored solutions that address both local needs and global climate goals. Another reason for ICA's effectiveness is its technical expertise and long-standing working relationship with research centers. ICA is not alone. ICA has a large international network of skilled research institutes, universities that allow us to promote innovations that increase productivity while reducing environmental impact such as water efficiency, irrigation, soil conservation, and digital tools for farm management. Finally, ICA plays a key role in advocacy. We are working closely with governments, NGOs, international agencies to develop supportive policies and capacity building programs and collaborate and achieve approaches that can channel funding effectively and bring cutting-edge solutions to the region. FoHRSA Fund, as we call it, due to its Spanish acronym, is designed to support countries, farmers, and agribusinesses in the Americas, addressing the key challenges of resilience and adaptation to climate change in the food system. As the DG mentioned, we aim to improve the resilience of agri-food systems as well as to support agricultural innovation that minimize environmental impacts. FoHRSA is based on a blended capital structure. This means funds from the public and the private sector, either through grants, donations, and revolvable funds that unleashes the implementation of a resilient and sustainable agricultural practices with farmers and the rural communities and agribusiness properly articulated with the public sector policies. The fund, as we see it, is starting to structure what we call a technical assistance facility, aiming more towards capacity building, public solutions, projects and programs, as well as scaling up solutions. We're looking for grants from donations, from philanthropies that in a non-reimbursable way can help us to improve the technical assistance that the countries are being provided and also be well prepared in case of weather event as well as outbreak events. But also, we are looking towards the role of the business sector. We are looking for partners to do a business assistance facility to develop and increase the resilience of agribusinesses, either funded by investment instruments, non-reimbursable, in order to also improve agribusiness scouting, investment readiness, as well as investment. In terms of the programmatic approach, we are looking at the areas of circular economy, regenerative agriculture, soil health, water efficient systems, transition to renewable energies in food system, as well as carbon sequestration. We must understand that the private sector plays a key role in the transformation of the food system. FoHRSA then will also include, as I said, a platform where investors and agribusinesses can articulate, can meet, can coincide, doing sustainable business solution together with the governments. The DG said it's time to act. The success of these funds hinges on collaboration. We invite governments, international organizations, the private sector, and the civil society to join us in this important endeavor. Together, we can pool our experience and resources to create a more robust network of support, ensuring that our agricultural system not only survive, but thrive in the face of climate adversity. Through this collective effort, we will enhance the resilience of food systems across the Americas, safeguarding the environment while ensuring food security for our population. By partnering with the Resilience Fund, we can use better available technologies, share best practices, and financial resources to transform our agricultural landscape. Let us work together to build a resilient future for the food systems in the Americas, one that embodies the spirit of international cooperation and commitment to sustainable development. With the authorization of our DG, I would like to announce that ICA is committing of its own funds, a seed money for the fund of $2.0 million to start the discussion on this. We welcome you, and hopefully we can have great businesses around this fund. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Federico, for such wonderful news. Thank you to Mr. Mai and Dr. Ibrahim, who has also shared some key facts about what we're doing today. With this, we're going to end this session. We would like to invite you to a refreshment and have the chance to converse more about it afterwards. Again, thank you very much for joining us today, and we're ready to act. Good afternoon.